I'm Sam Taylor and I'm here with Tim McCourt.
Hello.
And, hi mate. And we're talking to Aya Suzuki, who is an animator, who is one of the only people I know who's been able to bridge the gap between working seriously as an animator in Europe and Japan. She's worked for Hayao Miyazaki at Studio Ghibli. She's worked for, who else have you worked for? Satoshi Kon. You worked for Madhouse. You worked at various places in the UK, including Sylvain Chomet. You pretty much got the best CV, I think, of any animator that I've ever come across. Yeah, I can't think of anybody who's worked for so many great directors.
Well, because I'm usually on one project with feature films, I've been on one project for a year or so. So I've got very few projects on my CV, which I think makes my CV come across as a little bit weak, in my opinion. But
no, I mean, you've worked on how many feature films?
So it started off with The Illusionist, and
I've got your CV here. Right?
Yeah,
You've got The Illusionist, The Dreaming Machine, Wolf Children.
That's The Wind Rises.
Okay, The Wind Rises.
And Anime Mirai, Death Billiards. And then I worked for another feature film.
So that's already 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's
a lot.
7.
I think for how old are you, 29?
I'm 30 now.
I think for a 30-year-old, 6 feature films
Yeah.
across 2 continents is pretty good.
Yeah.
We'll touch this later on, I guess, but for a Japanese animator, for somebody in my 30s now, that's very little.
Really?
That's really, really little.
Why?
Like by the time you're 30, you'll be working on at least, 20, 30.
How is that possible? How long is the production for the films in Japan?
Not a lot of people. I like to commit myself on one feature film for a long period. I mean, obviously, for economical reasons, it's financially stable, but I don't like jumping from studio to studio, switching styles. When I get involved with a film, I do prefer to stay with that film, and I like to get involved. But most Japanese animators don't think that way. There's so many projects, it'll be normal for an animator to be working on 3 feature films in one go.
Really? From home?
They'll allocate, this day I'll come into this studio,
really?
This day I'll go into that studio, and this day I'll work from home. I mean, it's quite normal.
And the studios are completely fine with that?
Well, there's 2 ways of working. Well, there's 3 ways, I guess. There's the total freelancing, which is you get paid per shot, per cut. So therefore, even if there's no loss for the studio at the end of the day, even if that person hasn't worked for a week.
Right.
That person is going to get paid per cut that person completes. So there's no loss. So they can. The reason why animators can work on so many projects in one go is because of that.
Right.
And there's the other one, which is kind of like they call it a contract, but a lot of the times a contract doesn't exist, but they'll give you a monthly salary.
Right.
And that will pretty much be saying, I will work on this project exclusively and only this project, which I usually do.
Okay.
A lot of animators cheat the system. They say, I'll work on this project exclusively, but they won't. They'll actually have 2 contracts.
Really?
And a lot of people do that. I prefer not to, because I like to sleep at night.
Right.
And
so they would work in one place and then go home and then.
Yeah, some people work during the day in one studio, at night they'll work at another studio.
And that's on site. They're actually in the studio. They're going into the other studio.
You do pretty much have to be in the studio. They don't really force you to, but if you're on a salary,
But if you're turning up to work at midnight or 8 o'clock, do they don't mind?
No. Wow. There's no working hours.
Oh, okay.
Even if you get, the salary kind of thing.
Wow, that is incredible.
So there's just somebody on the door and they'll let you in.
Oh, the studios are 24 hours anyway.
Really?
So there's always people in the studio. Like even production assistants arrive after lunch.
Wow.
And is this across the board at every studio in Japan?
And a lot of animators prefer to arrive late in the evening and work overnight and go home in the morning.
Right.
I used to arrive around lunchtime and then go home, sometimes at midnight or something like that.
Wow, that's incredible. And if an animator is doing the 2 studio thing,
they're not supposed to, but they do.
but are they still good animators? Are they still turning out decent work?
The reason a lot of the thing is, they are slow animators. Of course, you can't produce that much quantity, but a lot of the times they're really, really good animators. So therefore, studios would kind of pretend not to look at it.
Right.
But because they're producing good work, then the producers will be like, okay, this person, we'll have to let them on, because there's so many projects. Animators are almost in a more advantageous position.
Right. Really?
I'd say so. Yeah.
If you're a very good animator.
You don't have to be a good animator, to be honest, in Japan. You can be quite average and you'll be able to get decent work. Because there's just so many projects.
Right, okay.
And what's the money like? Is it?
Another reason why I like to be contracted with a monthly salary is because it's good. The salary is not bad. Whereas if you're working per shot, it's awful. You can't pay your rent.
Okay.
Well, I can't, at least, because I can't work at the pace of an average TV series animator.
And you're a fast animator. I've worked with you before.
Well, in the UK, maybe. In the commercial industry, I guess in film as well, I can work a reasonable speed now. But that was after I worked in Japan. But I'm a very slow animator in Japan because I can't. The maximum I can knock out is 7-8 cuts per month.
And what is that in terms of?
Is that 7-8 shots?
Shots, sorry.
And what in terms of seconds?
If you're, it depends on the shot, I guess. But you're doing from layout and all the characters as well.
Yeah, that's something that's quite different.
So explain layout as it's defined in Japanese animation.
Layout, it would be the camera, basically. So you get a storyboard. You've seen Miyazaki's storyboard books.
They're quite detailed.
Yeah, you get that. But not all directors draw as detailed. Some directors aren't even drawers, so they'll be stickmen sometimes. And then you receive that, you have a meeting with the director and the animation director. The director will explain to you how he wants the scene to be, and then you'll start drawing out the layout from the storyboard. So what I usually do is I blow up the storyboard and I start by tracing it, trying to get a feel for it. And I'll think to myself, okay, so the camera, how am I going to work the camera here? So if there's a camera move, you have to work it out at layout stage as well. And the perspective and where's the eye level. That's a skill that I did not have when I went to Japan. I didn't think that I needed that as an animator, and you don't need that as an animator in the UK or Europe.
No. Was you shocked did you know that when you entered into the industry in Japan that
not really,
you just expected that? So was you shitting yourself the first time they presented you with something like that to do?
What was interesting is that Satoshi Kon does all his layouts.
Oh really?
Have you seen his storyboards?
Yeah, I've got the Tokyo Godfather one. Yeah.
So I think it was from Tokyo Godfathers. He got fed up a little bit and of correcting animators' layouts, and he just thought, I might as well destroy it myself if I'm just going to correct everything.
Yeah.
It'll be faster that way. And this way animators can really focus on animating. And the thing is, most animators do prefer animating than doing layouts.
Yeah.
So it was his way of saying, look, you can freely animate now.
Yeah.
And so because my first job in Japan was for Satoshi Kon, I didn't have to do layouts. He had done it all for me.
Okay.
Well, he did it for all the scenes. So it wasn't too much of a problem. But after that, I had problems big time. I
Yeah.
really didn't understand, like, because you have to start thinking about really technically about lenses. Like, what kind of lens am I using? I don't know anything about lenses, you know.
Yeah.
So
And how do people learn this stuff? I mean, like, what's the way which people come up in animation?
I think
in Japan, because there's not big animation schools in the way that there are like
No.
CalArts or Goboland.
animators in Japan pretty much learn their craft in the job, I'd say, and from their seniors. And the animation director and the director pretty much go over all your drawings anyway, like physically. They'll draw they'll stick another piece of paper on, and they'll draw all over it, saying, "Oh, this should be the camera, this should be the perspective, this is the eye level," and so you learn from the corrections. I'd say.
Yeah.
And then you learn by asking around. I mean, there are, you know, famous almost celebrity-like animators in Japan, and they've got that status for a reason. And you go ask them like questions, and they're always happy to help out.
That's nice.
And does their position in the company and their pay grade reflect
No,
how good they are?
not at all.
Really?
I don't think
Wow.
so. Because I was getting paid. I think I was getting paid exactly the same as some of these guys as well, which I didn't deserve. But I'm not going to start negotiating my pay down. I mean, it's a weird position to be in.
So when you went in, when you were working for Satoshi Kon, was that as a junior animator, or was that
No, animator.
just an animator? And do they have those designations, junior, senior?
No. What they'll do is they'll probably excuse me. So once the storyboards are completed, a chunk of it, I'm not quite sure. I think it's the director, and he starts snipping it up. Like, so he'll cut it from, okay, these scenes are all flowing very well, so he'll cut it.
Right.
Yeah, like a bunch of 10 scenes, or sometimes it's like 5 scenes, sometimes it's 50 if it's an action scene. And he'll cut it all up. And then he'll think, okay, so this animator's good at action scenes, so let's give him the 50 scenes of action. And then this animator's good at children, so this scene, kids are running around, so let's read it to
And are they
them.
always sequential?
Yes.
Okay.
It's not, you have to work on a bunch of scenes, or sequential scenes.
Okay.
And that can vary from around about 5 scenes to, sometimes it can go up to 70 in one go.
70?
70 scenes, yeah.
Bloody.
And how long does that take somebody?
On a feature film, an animator is required to complete 10 scenes per month if you're on a salary.
Right.
But you said you're doing 7, was that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
7 or 8, and that was the maximum that I was reaching towards the end. Before that, it was even less.
But what, so in a week, how much seconds do you have to get through?
It depends.
It's so
It's
weird
really
because,
difficult to calculate that.
because there's also some weeks you must get a scene which has got 3 characters in the
So, yeah, exactly.
dog, and like,
So, 10 scenes, you balance it out yourself. This is another thing which I didn't have, was my own management skills as an animator.
Right.
So if you've got a bunch of like 20 scenes, there's going to be a scene where there's nothing moving except for a blink.
Right.
So, but that's counted as a scene. So basically, if you've got a complicated scene with 20 characters all moving and effects going on, that will take you a long time. That will probably take you half a month, maybe.
Yeah.
But you balance it out with those simple scenes.
Right. Okay.
So it's not like we need 10 scenes from you because it's the end of the month kind of thing.
Yeah.
They'll give you a bunch of scenes, like 50 scenes, and they'll say, okay, see you in 5 months' time.
Right. So, but I mean, like in if it was like, because I know like roughly what you're expected to kind of produce in the commercials industry in London, but I wonder, it's definitely more in Japan. So if you had like 2 characters in a shot and it was like 5 seconds, if you got that done in a week, would that be considered bad in Japan?
I would consider that quite slow.
Okay.
If it's 2 characters in a scene, then probably it depends on what they're doing and how long the scene is. But you're saying 5 seconds, and let's say it's just normal acting.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is, but it's not over the top action or anything.
And it's
like
not
that.
a shot like looking down on them, or it's not like.
Oh, then
special
an
effects
animator
in
would
it,
probably
right?
just finish that in 1 day or something like that.
Really?
I saw a shot
Wow.
on your show reel where the angle was quite unusual.
Yeah, it was on Death Billiards, right?
On Death Billiards, yeah. And you were, and it was almost like the camera was like, I don't know, 3 meters above them, looking down on 2 characters walking or running,
fighting
fighting through a room. I mean, that to me would be complicated. I mean, something like that would take a little bit longer, right?
I got those. Basically, you hand out a layout with a rough animation on it, kind of blocking it out where the characters are going to be, and show the camera path, because you have to animate the camera path as well. And you hand that into the director and animation director. So it goes to the director, animation director, and then the director's assistant or something like that sometimes. Sometimes it's only the 2. And then it comes back to you with corrections and you start animating it, right?
Right.
So with a complicated scene like that, a lot of the times the director and animation director find it very difficult to correct as well, obviously, because it's a complicated scene.
Yeah.
So as an animator, you tend to hand out a lot of scenes to them, and then you only get the easier ones back, because it's easier for them to correct. And that scene in particular in Death Billiards, with the camera from above and them fighting, it was very difficult because the fighting sequence wasn't even storyboarded. There was only the first drawing and the last drawing in the storyboards.
Wow.
So I had to choreograph the battle scene. So that scene was kind of a boomerang shot where I had to kind of communicate with the director and animation director how we're going to choreograph it and how the camera is going to track them and everything. And it took a while, that process, the layout process. And because I got the scene really late, towards the deadline, I was told, okay, you've got a day and a half to animate it.
Whoa.
And it was like, I had to do it.
And
I did it. So the actual animation itself was done in a day and a half, but the actual layouting, the planning took maybe 3 days altogether.
But even then, so the whole sequence, that shot took under a week to do.
Oh, definitely.
And that's at a tie down stage.
Yeah.
Not isn't just rough animation.
But that's not in between.
Not
That's
in between.
charted.
But that scene didn't have many in betweens because it was an action scene.
Right.
So it was keyed pretty much on 2s. And then the in-betweens I had to rough out anyway because, it's an action scene. It's not a straight head in-betweening. So it was tough. I didn't sleep.
Wow.
Really? At all?
One night I didn't sleep. I worked throughout, and then I went home, slept a little, and then came back to work, and I finished it in a couple of hours. Sometimes you just need a bit of sleep.
I think you need an hour. Like I think there's
an hour. I need like 7.
No, I mean not like every night you need an hour.
Right.
But yeah, like there's been times where I've had to do an all-nighter, but I've got to go and curl up on a sofa somewhere for an hour. In order to be remotely functional the next day. Be able to do stuff, but that's pretty nuts. That sequence. There's a really cool bit on your reel from that sequence where they're having a fight with pool cue, I think, and
billiards cues.
Yeah, he gets the cue inside his mouth, and there's a shot of him inside the mouth as he kicks him over or whatever, knocks him over. Did you come up with that?
No, not me.
Okay.
That was quite specifically storyboarded.
Okay,
actually.
So cool.
That was a great idea. It's annoying. Like I've always wanted to do something shot from inside somebody's mouth. I think Peter Chung did that.
I've seen it a couple of times as well. Yeah.
I've only ever seen it in animation though. I've never seen it in live filmmaking.
I've seen it in there's that famous shot in Little Shop of Horrors, and Bill Murray's in the dentist, and Steve Martin's like doing some dentistry in him, and it's shot from inside his mouth. And I was watching it quite recently, and even then I was like, how the hell did they? They do it?
It's probably like a fake mouth. Right?
Yeah, but it looks amazing because I think even the tongue's moving.
Wow.
And it looks great. Anyway, yeah, Little Shop of Horrors, wicked.
So
what do you think of Little Shop of Horrors?
I haven't seen it. I really want to see it now. I wish I had it for reference.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen that.
But another like amazing thing about the Little Shop of Horrors, no, joking. About that sequence you did in Death Billiards is that like, and one thing because I remember talking to Wes about you telling him about how you do it, and he was saying they like in Japan you have to do layouts and also effects animation as well, whereas that is so like, I don't know, you know, you always hear in America and even in London, like there are people who are just jobbing effects animators, and there's a sequence in that where like glass smashes and all this water comes out of like a big kind of some giant fish tank or something, and you would have had to have done all that, and like the aeroplane, there's like an aeroplane going above and all this kind of stuff, and I find that amazing that in Japan you're just expected to just be able to do everything.
You have to be a generalist, I guess.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
Yes, but you do tend to. You are, as an animator, they will remember you as, okay, this person. You do have to be a generalist, yes, that's right, because you have to do the layouts, you have to do the characters, you have to work out the camera, and you have to do the effects as well. You do generally have to be a generalist. But every animator has their strong kind of... during...
And they might get pigeonholed into that kind of thing, right?
And I'm a better character animator, I'd say.
Right.
Death Billiards was something in particular that I did. It's funded by the government, by the way.
Really?
And it's
Death Billiards.
Yes.
Wow.
It's a new government project, young animators training project. So if you're under a certain age and you've only got a certain amount of experience, you can get onto it.
Oh wow.
And basically, you're supposed to be given scenes that are quite challenging.
That's
so
incredible.
I jumped onto it because coming from Europe, I just couldn't do effects.
Yeah.
And my layouts were so weak, and I knew it. My character animation people praise, but other than that, I just couldn't do, which in Japan is a little bit useless, I have to say. I mean, it's not useless.
It looks great. I mean, like we were all sort of in the studio looking at it, just going, fucking hell.
It was one of those ones where...
It's all animated by girls, by the way.
Definitely.
The entire team, the young animators.
Wow.
There was 6 of us, I think, and we were all girls. And we're allowed up to 3 senior animators as kind of mentors and supervisors.
And the senior animators were all guys.
Those were guys, yes.
So does that mean that there's a change in...
Definitely.
Yeah,
I think
so there's a lot more girls coming up now.
There's more female animators now. I saw the statistics. There was a research done in Japan, and they had it all separated into animators in 20s, 30s, 40s and 50s. And I think 30, 40 and 50 there's more men. But then when it comes to animators in their 30s, it starts to balance out. And animators in their 20s, there's more women than there are men.
Really?
That's great.
But I think it's also a reflection of female animators quitting.
Right, okay.
Retiring quite soon, simply because of getting married.
Okay.
Yeah.
Having kids and things.
Yeah.
Right, okay. That's quite interesting.
But I think, generally there's more female animators. There will be a lot more female animators from now on.
That's really weird, because I think that I've seen more and more female animators coming up now than there was before, from what I can tell.
Yeah.
I feel like in the UK there's
all
more,
over, yeah. I think it's all over
there's more
the
girls
world.
getting into it.
But
And it was weird because I thought it was because of anime. I thought because of anime. I thought and manga and Japanese influences. I thought it was because before that, I mean, the way a lot of people get into animations through comic books, and comic books in in America and Europe were pretty much dominated by superhero comics, which is pretty much directed mainly at guys, and then there was a lot of cartoons which were very like male centric as well, and even that thing with I remember, what was it, Brave. Oh no, no, there was something else. No, it was Tangled.
Yeah.
It was called something else beforehand. I think it was called
Rapunzel,
like
wasn't
it was Rapunzel. Yeah. And then they changed the name to Tangled because I think they said that girls would watch movies that were geared towards boys or that were non-gender specific, but boys wouldn't watch gender specific films directed at girls. Yeah. So I thought that the increase of and I guess that with manga there's a lot of different genres, and it seems like because it's so granular, you get certain genres which are directed specifically at girls, much more than there is in the
there's
West.
also an age thing that they have animation which are aimed for girls or boys of a particular age.
Yeah, but I mean,
if you think about it, the whole picture, kids don't graduate from anime at all, because there's always something that is aimed for them at that particular time.
Yeah, but it seems like within manga, like there's a million different niches. If you want to be into gay bowling manga, like you know, there's a whole selection for you. But yeah, so I always thought that the reason that over here, the reason a lot more girls were getting into it is because of anime. But I mean, I guess if it's happening in Japan, then that's generally across the board happening.
I mean, the thing is, there's always been a big market for animation for girls in general. But I think Miyazaki has a lot to do with, especially now, the girls who are turning in their late 20s, and there's so many female animators in their late 20s. I did an interview, because it's a government project, we're interviewed, the young animators are interviewed, asked about why we became animators as research, as well as they put the interview online as well. And I think more than half, so there's 6 girls and we were all in our 20s. We were all similar age, 25 to, I was 29 at that point, I think. And pretty much more than half of us said, it was definitely Miyazaki's.
Right, because he always says kind of strong young women coming out in all his films.
And also, it became kind of quite a norm when I was a kid to see making of footage of a Miyazaki film on TV quite often.
Like the one where he's making noodles for the whole studio.
Yeah.
Did you ever do that when you were there?
That sells it though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't do it whilst I was there because...
The cameras weren't on.
Well, it's got to do with his age as well.
Right,
and he does go home. He does go home late, but he did go home.
He started to go home at 12 o'clock now.
Yeah, exactly. 11, I'd say.
Right.
I was just gonna sort of ask you just a little bit about how you got into the industry in Japan. So you were born in Japan, is that right?
Yes.
And then you moved over to the UK when you were 3, and you lived here for a bit, and then you went back to Japan to high school.
No, I was still in elementary school, so I was 8 when I moved back to Japan, and then I moved out of Japan at 15 or 16. And I was in the US for 1 year, and then I returned to the UK. And then, I finished my A-levels and I went to art college. I wanted to do animation. I don't like to say it, but yes, Miyazaki did influence me to get into it. I was really into it. But also Evangelion was a big influence as well, because Evangelion was huge in my teens. But I also was because I was in the UK, I saw a lot of mixture of films. Like Fantasia was one of my favourite films as a kid as well. So I did have to do
the original one.
Yes. And then, so I always wanted to be an animator or a graphic novel artist because I like to draw as well. And then I went to art college, studied animation, and then I ended up landing a job for Sylvain Chomet.
You guys actually studied together, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, I got me my first job actually
I am.
Eternally grateful for that. Like straight out of university, I had turned up at when we were in Bournemouth in our third year. We were in our second year. You were going into third year.
Yeah.
And you joined in the third year.
Yeah, I was doing before that foundation degree at another uni.
Right.
And then.
And you was doing animation on that course.
I was doing animation, and then I wanted to specialise in 2D at the end of the day. And then Bournemouth was quite strong in 2D at that time, so I just decided to do my final year.
I think it was interesting how you got your how you got to meet Sylvain Chomet for the first time.
Yeah, I met him in Japan.
Really?
Enough, yeah. Because I mean, at that point, I was like, after finishing 2 years of uni, I had no idea how to get into the industry, and doing a BA was one of the reasons why. Well, I did a BA just because I didn't know how to get into the industry. I really desperately wanted to get into the industry, but you just don't know. You don't have the means to get into it.
Yeah.
And then I just did a voluntary work for the Hiroshima Animation Festival, and Sylvain Chomet, Richard Williams, Michael Dodoctowit were all guests there that year, TAKASE as well. And then I was there for a week. The festival itself goes on for a week, and I was there for the entire week as a kind of helper and interpreter. And then the people at the office of the festival knew that I studied animation, and they were really helpful. So they were just like, "Oh, Richard Williams needs an interpreter. You can help him out."
Wow.
And then Michael Dodoctowit needed help, and then Sylvain every now and then needed help. So that's how I met him. And then he told me about how he's gonna have a studio in the UK to make his next feature film. And then, like, it was literally me, him, Sylvain, and then Richard Williams talking. And basically, Richard Williams had recommended students from Bournemouth.
Really?
Yeah. And
wow.
then I was just like, hey, I'm going there from the summer.
Wow.
So did you have a job when you turned up at Bournemouth?
No, it wasn't a guaranteed job at all,
Okay.
because he hadn't seen my portfolio.
Right.
But did you have contact information from?
Yeah, he gave me his contact details because I said I'm going to be at Bournemouth, so it was his way of getting contact with Bournemouth.
Oh, really?
Through me.
Wow. So you're responsible for all those dudes from Bournemouth getting there.
I think there was 14 of us or something in the end got a job up there, and it was all through.
It wasn't a bad deal, I think, but. I was by email in touch with him, and he wanted to get in touch with the uni, he wanted to see portfolios, and I was just like, okay, so what is it that you want to see in a portfolio? And he just said life drawing, really strong life drawing, and then I went to life drawing religiously after that, and then I presented my portfolio to him, and he liked it. He said that's exactly what he wanted to see, and then he says come along, and I joined as soon as I graduated.
Wow, that is amazing.
So you worked for 3 years, or you were there.
I was there 4 years.
4 years, yeah. So you worked for 4 years in Edinburgh. When you first started up, there was only like 6 people there or something.
There was 3 people.
Right.
Well,
so you were there right from the beginning.
Yeah, definitely. So because we weren't even working on the Illusionist to start off with, we were doing a commercial, and then we did a pilot for these guys.
TV series.
For a TV series. It hasn't been made. There's only a pilot available.
What was that? Is it online anywhere?
It's on YouTube.
Really? It's called The Clan.
Yeah,
Clan.
but it's not under the name The Clan. You can find it. I'll send you a link.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
we'll post it as a link when we post
Yeah.
that podcast.
And so it took a while for the Illusionist to kick off. But so yeah, I was there for maybe 3 weeks doing help on other stuff, and then finally the storyboarding for the Illusionist started off.
So what was your involvement from? You was doing storyboarding, design?
So storyboarding, and then for the storyboards there were no character designs available, so me and Laurent, who's one of the supervising animators.
Laurent Kircher.
Yeah. He was the supervising animator for Tati. And so we'd be storyboarding, and then we'd read the script, and then we'd storyboard it. And a lot of the times there were no character designs, so we'd just knock something up and get it checked with Sylvain and all that. And then when Alice appeared, I was taking off the storyboards, and then I was just designing her every day.
Was she not part of the original script then?
No, she was.
Oh, right.
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
She was.
But she only appears later in the film.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you storyboarded almost from page one and went through
yeah,
it. Yeah,
that's how we did it.
Yeah, that was a long process. I think that was.
That took 2 years, 2.5 years. I think.
Really, to storyboard the whole film.
Yeah, I was doing that as well. So when I first started up, we were doing that quite. I mean, probably the most elaborate animatic that I've ever worked on. It was almost key poses at the end.
Right.
Wow. And then animation had to start before we even finished the storyboards. So by the time the animators started, I was still storyboarding.
Wow.
And then you were one of the supervising animators on Alice.
I didn't. Well, I supervised her model, but I wasn't the supervising animator.
Okay.
I was too.
But did you go into it? You know, when you started actually, when it got to the animation, was you an animator straight away on the project?
No, for a while I was the kind of. I guess I was the kind of supervising assistant animator. Okay. So all the animation would come to me, and I'd correct the models and do some key poses for the assistants.
Okay.
And then it will be handed out to the assistants because her face is so difficult to capture. But by that time, I had been working on Alice for 2 years, so you know I knew the model fairly well. But it kept on changing, so it didn't make that much difference. It was really difficult for me as well. But I had to say, like, all the animators were drawing her differently, so I had to put all the animation on one model.
Yeah, there was quite a lot of that. I think because during that storyboarding process, the model was being changed for both characters, so we were kind of almost animating it, but like I think. If you were to look at that storyboard now, I don't know if it's been released on any of the DVDs, but I mean, I think his head is like, you know, half the size of his torso.
Oh, right. What, originally?
At the beginning, and then it kind of goes down, and then it goes up, and she goes through a period of looking quite Asian, and then goes back to looking quite Caucasian.
And then she looks French, and then she looks but she never looked Scottish, that's the thing until the end.
She never sounded Scottish.
But she was talking Gaelic.
Oh, but isn't there a bit where she's singing a French song where she's like?
No,
she's speaking Gaelic. It's just like you never really hear Gaelic unless you have like that Scottish TV channel that you only get in.
But they did get a proper Gaelic speaker too.
Oh, really? I'm sure
That's
there's a bit where
she's
like cleaning something and she's singing a song and it sounded like a French song.
Yeah, it's a weird language. It's something that like you know I'd never heard before really until I went to Scotland.
Okay.
Anyway, so you finished on the Illusionist, and then you were.
I was at home
you were hanging
in
out.
Surrey for God, how long? Almost 6 months maybe.
Mm-hmm. But you was an animator on the Illusionist as well.
Yeah, I was an animator.
By the end of it, kind of.
Well, I kind of I switched to animation. At the end of the day, they ran out of people to animate. I mean,
you weren't animating most of the time I was there.
I think for a good year I was just doing corrections, but I did ask, can I animate? Because at the end of the day, I want to be an animator. Can you give me some scenes? And then I started on some scenes, and then Sylvain liked it, and Paul liked it. And
Paul Dutton, who was the assistant director, who is an excellent guy, by the way.
Yeah.
And animation director for The Illusionist. And then it was like we had to get the animation finished, so they put me off the model correction, which was very time consuming, and then they put me full-time animator after that just to finish the animation. So
you were down in Croydon for
in Surrey for good 6-7 months or so. Well, altogether it was about 8 months maybe, and first of all, it was kind of nice not to work, and then after a while I thought, crap, I need to find some work. But I just didn't know how to get into the London industry at all. And nobody knew me, obviously, in London. And then I started applying for jobs here and there, didn't get them.
But did you really want to get a job in London at that stage? Oh, right, okay. I didn't realise.
I wouldn't have minded. And then I think all the job offers kind of came at the same time.
This is for Japan?
No, I applied for places in London, in France, because a lot of people went to Paris, because there was a lot of work in Paris at that point for 2D animators. And then I applied for work in Tokyo as well. And then I think in Japan I sent about 5-6 applications. And then the one person who got back to me was Satoshi Kon.
Really?
Wow.
All the other people didn't.
It's interesting how you got to
And
know.
I applied for in-betweening other than that, by the way.
Really?
And it's the
Satoshi Kon
only
got-
place that I applied for animation, and I thought, I'm just going to send my work anyway because I'm sending my work everywhere. It was just another copy and paste email, and I thought,
And
I'm
what
not
do you
going to
think
get
he
it.
specifically responded to you?
I think because he thought it was interesting.
He thought it was interesting that you were somebody who'd grown up over here or spent some time working over
Well,
here.
he saw my showreel and portfolio, and apparently he said he liked the work that he saw, and that he could see me animating on his particular film at that point. So therefore, he got in touch with me, but through his production assistant. But it was kind of a vague email saying, you know, we are interested. We'd like to meet you, but it didn't say how we're going to do it.
Right.
So I suggested, you know, I kind of made it very 100% clear. I want to do this. If you're interested, I really, really want to do this because I like Satoshi Kon films. And they responded quite clearly the next time saying, okay, we can try a Skype meeting. We'll send you some test scenes. And then let's take it from there. Let's see if it works. Because we don't know how you work over there.
Yeah.
And then if it works, then we could probably send you more work. And then it was kind of like, let's see how this goes, first of all.
So they sent you a test?
So they sent me a test which was 7 scenes. You saw the box.
Really?
They sent me a box that big, so heavy.
I went to
full of
Aya's house,
paper.
this massive box full of paper sitting in a hallway that she
my
got from
God.
Japan.
They could have just sent that digitally to me, but because Japan is such
Yeah.
the animation industry is just so
And
paper-based.
what was it like? The layouts and
It was the storyboards and all the model sheets, character
so
sheets.
you got sent a box of Satoshi Kon's storyboards.
Yeah.
You should have said, actually, I'm not going to work on this. I'm just going to keep it all.
Gonna
and,
sell this.
Yeah, eBay it or just.
Make the same.
Have you still got that stuff?
Yeah.
So amazing. Wow. Anyway, go on. Sorry.
And then it was because an animation test, right? They said to me, "We'd like to test you.
Yeah.
If you get an animation test, you'd expect it to be one scene, right? Just a short scene.
Yeah.
There were 7 scenes long,
Oh my god.
and it was a sequence from the film.
And this
it
is
was,
unpaid.
the thing is, I thought it was unpaid, but
Yeah.
when I completed the test, they paid me.
Oh, that's good.
Okay.
And was
Did
that
they
for-
use those scenes?
Yes.
Okay, so it was like.
So it
yeah.
wasn't a test in terms of an exam or anything. For them, they meant a test as in
Like a trial.
Yeah,
yeah.
they meant as in a trial, but I thought it was a test. But
So they were going to pay you either way?
yeah, whichever way.
Okay.
And you had a Skype conversation with Satoshi Kon.
Yeah,
Really?
and he was it's a little bit difficult because you know how even though you've got the video footage, it feels a
Did
little
you
bit
record
distant
it?
I hate
anyway.
Skype so much.
Did you record the?
No,
Oh.
I didn't. Can you record?
Yeah, I
Skype
think so.
conversations? I don't know.
I'm sure there's a way of doing it. Yeah.
Wow.
And
that
so
must have been
it was
surreal.
kind of like I remember saying, so do I do background layouts? And he goes, no, you don't have to do background layouts. You can start on the rough animation. I was just like, okay. I was just like, what about cleanup? And he goes, what is cleanup? And I
We
was
just
like,
animate.
What did you say in
Film
English?
model.
in Japanese.
You said clean up.
Yeah,
like
cleanup,
translation.
as in cleanup. I said clean up.
And that's not what they call it in Japan.
No, they call it doga, which means in betweens, but apparently that includes clean up as well.
Right,
so
okay.
I was told you don't have to do that. So I did this. I did the 7 scenes. Basically, knocked out the roughs. I mean, some of the scenes had like 15 characters in them. So it was a tough test, I have to say. I thought, what are they thinking? And
did you feel like the work that you did on The Illusionist prepared you for that? Could you have gone and done those things before you'd done that? Done The Illusionist?
I don't think I could have done it as quickly
Right.
and as fearlessly, if you know what I mean.
Did they expect you to deliver it in a certain time, the test?
They didn't give me anything,
Okay, so
deadline or anything.
how long did that take you then?
The roughs took me about 10 days.
Okay.
For 7 scenes, and for them
That's
that was
mental.
very quick.
That and what? How long was the 7 scenes in time?
2 minutes?
2 minutes in
Or
10
maybe
days.
a minute and a half or something like that.
In 10 days.
But posing's just
the
blocking it
keys.
out,
Okay.
so it didn't take me that long.
Do you
15 characters.
Some of them, yeah, but I didn't move them all. That's the thing.
Right,
I
okay.
used the Hitchcock effect, where
Right.
I'd only move a certain amount of birds, and then all the birds look as though they're moving.
Okay.
So do you animate like those roughs that you sent through? Were they rougher than a lot of Japanese animators?
Yeah,
animate?
really rough. Really rough.
Because I've seen a few art books from Gainax and various other Japanese animation companies, and I've never seen anything really rough. I don't know whether that's they're not showing the rough stuff.
Animators do work rough, but when they hand it in, they'll make sure that it's pretty much a tie down.
Okay.
And then the roughs they'll just throw away or something like that. So in the final kind of archive, you'll never see it because it
Okay.
never left the animator's hand. I think.
But people do
But yeah,
sketchy
yeah,
stuff.
definitely.
But and maybe just for people who are listening who might not necessarily know what a tie down is, like how would you describe that? It's like a sort of rough on model.
I would say a tie down is the state of animation. A tie down animation is the state where it is before you hand it into the cleanup artist. So
Okay.
just before cleanup.
So it's completely on model and
Yes.
Okay.
And very clean, and so the cleanup artist can just trace it.
would that
One-
include shadows as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Shadows and highlights, but in Japan you're not supposed to rely on assistants, because there are no such thing as real assistants. They're trace artists and in-betweeners.
One of the questions I wanted to ask was, you know, like you've got the kind of rare perspective of having worked on a European feature and Japanese, and like, which do you prefer? Like, what's the kind of, or what's more efficient? You know, because I think whenever people work in an industry, you always see the problems, and you think, oh, if only it was done this way or that way, and because the working method is quite different to maybe like Western production to Eastern. Like, what do you think is more efficient, or which do you prefer naturally kind of working in?
I mean, like in terms of my preference, I don't really have a preference between like which country am I working or what do you prefer. I tend to choose my preference depending on the project.
Right. Okay.
Or the director.
Or the director, yeah. And also obviously the environment of the studio as well.
But does the production organisation not is more similar in Japan? There's more of a, or does it really vary from studio to studio?
Yeah, that's something I wanted to ask as well. Like, how are the different studios different?
The systems are pretty much exactly the same.
Okay.
In the process of animation, to a point where the dope sheets are exactly the same.
Right.
I think they're Miyazaki's designs.
Oh, really?
Really? And then the whole
entire-
industry adopted
Yeah,
them?
I
Wow.
think it's the one that he invented when he was in his 20s or something like that. That's a rumour. But I think it's true. And then there's, you know how you've got animation language where, you know, tie down is a word that nobody knows, and then rough,
Breakdowns.
RUF,
Oh yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So the animation industry has its own language almost, and that's pretty much the same all over Japan. And the good thing is because it's so coordinated in that manner, whatever studio you go to, you're not learning that from the beginning.
But when you first turned up there, you must have had to learn that stuff quite quickly.
Yeah, but it was quite good for me because I had it quite easy because Satoshi Kon's really, really open towards. Because I used to ask him like, how do I dope sheet this kind of thing?
Really? You ask him?
I just because there'd be nobody in the studio. Because I used to arrive at the studio around 11 or so,
Right.
and it would be empty to a point where I couldn't get into the studio on my first day because I arrived at lunchtime,
Right.
and people roll in around 2 or 3.
Right.
And sometimes Satoshi Kon's in at lunchtime and he's the only person who I can ask.
That's mental.
So I'll be like, how do I do lip syncing here when I have no audio?
What a great teacher.
Yeah, and he teaches he used to teach at uni as well.
Really?
Yeah, he used to be a lecturer.
Wow.
So he was always open towards teaching.
But do you think that the system in Japan is more efficient than the European production you worked on?
Efficient, yes, but I almost think that sometimes that can get in the way of creativity sometimes.
Okay.
I think it's really difficult to get out from the box. If you know what I mean. You have to think within the box when you've got such a rigid system.
Yeah.
And you can't go outside of it, even though if you want to, because the way that studios work in Japan, like a Ghibli film is never 100% made in Ghibli.
Oh, really?
Like the in-betweenings goes to Madhouse a lot of the times.
Oh,
This
right.
studio, that all over Japan it goes, and it goes to Korea now.
Really? They started outsourcing.
If you're not,
They've been doing that for years. I think they were the first ones to outsource, weren't they?
I remember seeing a making of, and it might have been Spirited Away or something, but Miyazaki was like, he was getting fed up with what someone said, and he was like, oh, what, should we just start sending it all to Korea? And like it seemed like he was really not into that idea.
for a while Ghibli kept everything within Japan, but I think, I'm not quite sure if it was from Spirited Away or Princess Mononoke they started outsourcing.
Oh, really? Okay.
But if you look at Satoshi Kon's films, the in-betweening, I mean, the credits are all Korean names.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah.
But what was I talking about? Sorry.
We were talking about like the lack of creativity, or not lack of, but
it can be a bit of it can get away in the way of creativity, because if you start doing something really weird and quirky, then when it's outsourced, you pretty much can't outsource it. And that's kind of, I think that's my own theory, by the way, of why Japan has been so late with moving into digital.
Right, okay.
Because if one studio starts working with a Cintiq and TV Paint or Flash or something like that, how are you going to outsource the in-between within Japan? You know, maybe in Korea or China they'll be able to deal with it, but how are you going to outsource animation, which is always done as well? How are you going to send animation for an episode?
So the industry is very integrated, basically. All those companies are working together.
Yeah, that's interesting, because never really considered that.
There are a bunch of animators who are working with Cintiqs that I know of, and they use Flash, TV Paint and all, but they're kind of considered a bit of a nuisance in a way, because what happens is that when you provide work digitally, animation digitally, the production assistants have to print it out, peg it all,
That's so crazy.
and then in between it, and then scan it.
Yeah, because there's that. Is it an Iranian?
It's the John Lewis commercial all over again.
Oh right, yeah. There's that Iranian guy or something who.
Bahi.
Yeah, where's he based?
He's in Austria.
And he works digitally, and he works for Japan.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I guess
they would think he's a nuisance if his animation wasn't so great.
I mean, a lot of studios have started to accept it.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah. I mean,
I guess as you said that they're looking for people, they need people.
Yeah.
So
and he's
prepared to
good.
do that.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah,
face it,
yeah,
he's brilliant. So it's a cost that studios will be willing to pay for if they can provide the
But
work.
it seems like if they're trying to cut costs, wouldn't it make so much more sense to kind of integrate a digital system?
Well,
'Cause then you can have
at the
people-
beginning it is expensive, isn't
Yeah,
it,
it's
to get all those machines, and also
I also think it's kind of a leap of faith for producers and for
Mhm.
other people. It's like an untested system in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
I mean, it may have been tested in other areas, but not
Mhm.
if it's not been tested in Japan, and people have to get used to it, and there's a learning curve.
Yeah,
you know.
so
You don't want to be the one who's like puts that out there in a meeting and like you know pushes behind it, and if people don't get behind you on that, then you're going to lose your job. I mean, nobody's going to lose their job for letting people carry on doing stuff on paper.
Yeah.
But if you're the one who like makes the company invest in, I don't know, like it's a big investment to buy like I don't know 20
think it's
Cintiqs in a
huge,
studio
yeah.
or something.
I
mean, it may
mean-
cost you, it may cut costs long term, but
it
it's a big
definitely
initial
will if you think
investment,
about the
yeah.
paper and pencils they actually.
But yeah, I mean, like if you didn't have to, I mean, how much money do they spend on paper and pencils and scanning and people scanning on a production? It must.
photocopying.
I think that must far weigh out the cost of buying 20 Cintiqs or something.
To me as well, it's like
But it's not
even
a
the
matter of 20 Cintiqs, that's the thing, because it will be literally, for a company, it'll be more than 20, it'll
Yeah,
be
it'd be like
50 to hundreds,
Yeah.
because
But
that
then
means the whole in-betweening team has to integrate as well.
But then once they're bought, they're bought. Like if you, I reckon it would probably still
they have
cost.
quite a long shelf life.
Yeah, I mean they're goers, aren't they?
Yeah, I've got one. I've got a graphics tablet I'm just selling on eBay.
Are you selling it?
Yeah. Do you want it?
No. Got one, but
I'm selling it for. I've seen them going for like half their original price.
Oh, yeah.
10 years ago.
yeah, but yeah, I mean you could buy second-hand ones. I've seen.
Did you
them
manage to
going-
sell it, by the way?
We'll find out. We'll find out about that in about 7 days. On Sunday
Because
next week.
I'm
You need
thinking
one.
to myself, I'm just going to try and sell my graphics tablet really cheap to a student or something like that.
And just get a Cintiq. Get a Cintiq.
Yeah, I've already got one.
Oh right, but
Yeah.
you were thinking about selling it.
No, not my Cintiq.
right. Your graphics tablet,
My-
okay.
my graphics tablet.
Yeah, I think it's always worth like holding on to that little graphics tablet for when you're traveling.
Yeah,
or whatever.
yeah.
Like it saved my life a couple of times. But
Yeah?
you can get super small ones.
Yeah,
you can use when you're
I've got a
moving
fairly
and
small
stuff.
one.
So that's an interesting thing is that you've now moved into working digitally, and is that because you've moved into the London industry?
I always wanted to shift to digital, but working in Japan, like, the thing is, as an animator, like, nobody's very technical. Some people are really technically good, but in terms of IT wise,
Yeah, it's funny. 2D animation has become so much about art. It's a weird thing because I think that 2D animation started out being about technology. A lot of the originators of animation were, people like Ub Iwerks, who I think invented the multi-plane camera. Was a guy who was just like hanging out in a shed and like inventing stuff, and then he like made Mickey Mouse, and then he made a multi-plane camera, and he was like switching between drawing and technology. And I feel like for 3D it's a little bit more of that kind of like melding of the two skills. But I think 2D has, in the last however many decades, gone in the direction of being a lot more about art.
do you think it's an excuse?
Yeah,
I think it is. I
totally,
actually think it is because
yeah.
I think that the level of the level of tech savviness that you need to be able to work in a digital environment is pretty limited. I'm not a technical person. Like anybody who's had to show me how to use a television or something can attest to that fact. Like I know my way around a few pieces of software and stuff. I'm not a technical person, but I can operate as a freelancer in various different software packages and stuff. And,
I definitely think it's like crazy actually, because it's not even really old enough to kind of like the working like 2D animation isn't even old enough for it to be such a heritage. I mean, when I mean,
It was
the first
1932 or something.
Yeah, it's not even
probably
100
wrong about
years or
but
something like
that's
that.
when Snow White, I think, came out.
Yeah.
And that was the first animated feature film.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's
so
crazy.
yeah, people are like, you know, sticking to their guns, and they're sticking to these kind of like ancient traditions, which are only
yeah, like 50 years old.
no, like 80 years old.
Yeah. But I mean, the fact that the people doing it wouldn't have been even working in it for 50 years or whatever. But yeah, so it's
I always wanted to shift to digital because everybody says it's great, because all the animators, for instance, some of the animators on the Illusionist has shifted to digital, and like Laurent,
since they left the Illusionist.
Yeah, since they left the Illusionist, and they said like it's really great. You know, you really can do what you want to do, what you did on paper in digital, and I've never been against it at all. I mean, people tend to think that I'm not shifting because I'm sticking to my guns. I'm not at all. If it's going to make my life easier, then hell, I'll take it.
And how have you found working digitally on a Cintiq?
Oh, great. I love it. Yeah, I'm definitely going to continue. I mean, I've already bought one, like I said, and it's a good investment. I think it's one of the best investments I made as an animator. But it's one of those things that I wouldn't have been able to get used to without working in an environment with people around me using it already.
Using that system.
Yeah. So working in London has been great because I'm always in the studio, and I just ask the people around me like where is this button or that button on the software, because it's usually getting used to the software that's really tricky, isn't it?
Yeah. You say really tricky, like everybody I know who's picked it up has taken them a week.
Yeah.
Like, they've held out for like 15 years, and then they finally learned it in a week, and it's like, for fuck's sake, like.
I know, there's like, I haven't, you know, I've opened up TV Paint and I played about with it, and I was like, oh, this is a little bit difficult or whatever. And then I've seen people who like hadn't used it, like now using it, and they're like producing really beautiful animation. Like Peter Dodd, right? Who was massive. We're gonna interview him hopefully soon, but worked in 2D most of his career.
I don't think that he was like particularly against
he
moving
wasn't
to digital. He was somebody who was like he's a very open-minded guy, very receptive to other things. But everywhere that he was working was requiring pencils and paper, and he's incredible at doing that stuff. And I'm sure he still does jobs like that when they require him to do that.
But he's done TV.
But
he's
switched
now.
over recently, and it's been.
We switched over pretty much a similar time. And then we were sitting next to each other here at ETC. He was the worst person to be next to, vice versa as well.
Yeah,
he'd ask me a question and be like, why would I know? I've just switched.
But I mean, my point is that like he can use. I've never worked professionally on paper. I've done a little bit of in betweening or whatever, but I've never really worked professionally on paper. And he can use a software that I can't. You know what I mean? Like, and so
it's just in a week.
Yeah, exactly. And it's absolutely, it's 100% proof that like it's not a barrier at all.
Anyway, so there's one thing that we really have to talk about, I guess, which is working at Studio Ghibli. I feel like we talked about a lot of other stuff for the last hour, 7 minutes, but we haven't talked about working at Studio Ghibli. How did you get a job working at Studio Ghibli?
So I was working for Mamoru Hosada at that point, and then how did it happen?
That was on Wolf Children.
That was on Wolf Children, but did I go to Studio Ghibli before that? I can't remember exactly what else.
Was it through Daisuke that you got the job?
No, it was totally different. I went to Studio Ghibli. I went to visit the studio. And then basically, so it was Ei Inoue, who's the animation director of The Return of the Cats. I met him quite earlier on when I moved to Japan, because he was supposed to start on The Dreaming Machine, the Satoshi Kon's film. And so therefore, I met him a few times over drinks and stuff like that. And he was working at Ghibli at that point on, what's the Goro Miyazaki film.
Tales of Earthsea?
No, Poppy
Up
Hill.
on Poppy Hill.
Up on Poppy Hill. Is that the English
Is that
title?
directed by
Goro
Miyazaki, his son?
And he was working on that at that point, and he came to visit me at Madhouse actually at that point. That's it. So I was still at Madhouse on my first job for Satoshi Kon, and he visited just to chat with the animation directors and all. And he came to my desk saying, "Oh, by the way, the Illusionist is screening at Ghibli." I was just like, "What?"
They had distribution rights.
Yeah,
or
so
something.
Ghibli had bought the distribution rights of The Illusionist, and they had a screening for the Ghibli people at Studio
Right.
Ghibli.
Wow.
And at that point, I hadn't seen the final render of the film anyway.
Really?
Yeah, because
You hadn't seen the final render of
the film of
The Illusionist. Wow.
We went to see it in Germany,
In
but
Berlin.
it didn't have the credits, so I hadn't seen, because I heard some things changed.
Credits
after.
were the best bit.
Yeah, no.
When it ended.
It was a blank black screen. And basically, I hadn't seen the film with the credits, so I said, "Oh, I haven't seen it. Can you check out where I'm credited for?" And he just says, "Oh, come along with me." And I just said, "Am I allowed to?" And he says, "Yeah, sure." So I went to visit the studio, and then he was introducing me. He was showing me around the studio and said, "Oh, I worked on The Illusionist," and everybody was just
really?
like, "Wow!"
Really? That's
And
cool.
So I saw the film with the Ghibli crew.
So you played the exotic card.
Yeah, I did in Japan.
How did it go down there? Did they like it?
Yeah, everybody thought it was beautiful.
Really?
Yeah, it did. It went down quite
They're very
well.
polite in Japan.
Did you?
Yeah.
What did Miyazaki think of it?
He hadn't seen it.
Oh, he wasn't there for the screening of it.
He doesn't really watch films.
Oh, he doesn't.
Not that I know of.
Okay.
But Takata,
Yeah.
he's the one who kind of, I think, made the decision to buy it.
Okay. He's the director of like.
My
Grave,
name is the Yamadas.
yeah,
And-
Grave of the Fireflies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so and soon after that, I think I went to visit him, and then
You went to visit.
Takata,
Okay.
and then we spoke for a couple of hours. I think.
Really?
He was just like, "Oh my
Okay.
god, you worked on The Illusionist! Wow, wow, wow."
So are you the only person like who's really made the transition between Europe and Japan in terms of animation?
There's a lot of French guys who've made
Okay.
the transition.
Oh yeah, recently there's,
And
but they haven't worked on. I mean, I know there's a couple of guys who've gone at. What was that
But
dude who
they-
worked on Kick Heart?
Amaric something.
Calvin.
Something like
Yeah.
that.
What's that?
Oh, anyway, yeah.
Ah,
worked
okay,
with,
yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
Yuasa, yeah.
But there are some people, but during, to be honest, the Europeans who come to Japan sometimes just want to try it, like a working holiday.
Yeah.
They try it out for a few years and they go back
Okay.
and experience it, and that's it. Or else they're 100% in Japan, and that's all that they've done.
So there are people from outside Japan working in Japan.
Oh,
permanently.
quite a lot.
Oh
Yeah.
right, I had absolutely no idea about
Mm.
that. Okay.
I met quite a few of them.
Okay.
Um,
and
but-
they speak Japanese and they're working in the
Yes.
industry.
And how does
And
that
a lot
work
of the
then?
times they have, married in Japan as well.
So that's how they
Japanese
can
people.
stay in the country and
Well,
work.
not always. Studios do provide visas.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I guess that's one of the things that you must get asked a lot is like, is it possible to get a job in Japan if you're coming from outside Japan, and how
think
much
it's-
work is it?
It is doable. It's perfectly doable, but you have to be prepared to be. You have to be prepared to be poor,
Right.
ridiculously poor. Like you won't be able to pay your rent at the beginning. So
Why is
you'll
that?
be.
Because you're not getting enough work, or that it doesn't.
No,
pay
there's a
enough?
lot of work, but for instance, a TV series. You'll probably start on a TV series, right?
Yeah.
And
And you need to speak Japanese.
Yes, but some studios are quite generous. If they think you're worth it, they'll bring in a translator.
Oh wow. Okay.
But I know a few guys. But you will eventually have to pick it
Right.
up.
Yeah.
And it's really, really difficult. And that's even though there are some foreign people in Japan working in the animation industry, there's very little people. There's very few people working, because you have to learn how to read and write.
Right.
Because you have to write instructions in your animation,
Oh,
and you have
yeah.
to be able to read storyboards, which are handwritten with a lot of slangs as well.
Oh right. Yeah.
So it becomes really tricky. But it is perfectly doable. if you want to give it a go. But I mean, if you're working on a TV series, the TV series only pays what, 20 to 30 £30 per scene.
Wow.
Holy fuck.
And then and the schedule is basically, if you can't, you need to produce about 50 to 70 scenes a month. That's the schedule of a TV series.
You're like, you wouldn't be able to pay your rent.
So
that wouldn't even cover my bills, my coffee.
That's why I couldn't work I haven't worked in TV series because I just couldn't keep up with the schedule. And people say, oh no, don't worry, you'll find it easy because, you know, it's just a held cell. And I'm like,
I've seen some great TV animation stuff.
Well, the thing is, again, like what I said, you get a bunch of sequences and then you kind of balance it out.
Yeah.
You know, you make sure that you're making money with these held cell scenes, and when it moves, that's where you spend money.
Right, yeah.
For your own fun. But the thing is, I don't want to draw held cells. You know, I'm an animator, so why should I go into the TV series when I can work in feature films which pay reasonably well?
Yeah.
And a feature film, I'd say per shot, it depends, but it can pay up to £200 per scene.
Really? Okay.
But that's a really good one.
Yeah.
But if you're on a contract, it's more comfortable, I'd say.
So come back to working at Ghibli.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay.
No, that's all right.
I'm
just looking at the clock, and we've done an hour and 15 minutes.
There was that whole bit where you went to the toilet. We cut that out.
Yeah,
you
I'm
can
gonna
cut a
have
lot
to
out
learn to
too.
control my bladder in future. Ghibli. So you started working. So you went and met.
So I visited the
Isao
studio,
Takahata.
and then I went on to Wolf Children, and then when I was at Wolf Children, I received a contact from production assistant at Studio Ghibli saying, we're now working on Miyazaki's latest film, would you be available? We'd very much like to meet you, blah blah blah. And then I went to visit the studio, checked out the storyboards, and then they offered me the job. I showed them my showreel, they offered me a job, and then I was just like, so I'm on Wolf Children now, so after Wolf Children I'll join you guys. That was it.
Wow.
And it was through recommendations within the studio.
Right.
Like people who knew me, like because the animation director for Dream Machine, for Satoshi Kon's film was in as an animator, so he put in a recommendation for me.
And you were working directly with Miyazaki?
Yeah, well, all animators do.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And was that like I mean, because you said that you cited him as someone who influenced you greatly, and even to get into the industry, that must have been such a dream come true to work with as the person who got you into it.
It was exciting, but
Had your professional hat on, kind of thing.
I don't know. My dreams, like my beautiful dreams as an animator, got absolutely destroyed at Django. I think it's not like I had a bad experience or something like that. It's just that when it does become your job,
it's just your job.
It's a job, you know.
I think there's something about animation as well, which is it's a bit of a magic trick. And whenever you see how a magic trick is done, it's not quite as much fun. Like the day-to-day life of doing animation is. I mean, like quite a lot of the time, you really question why the fuck you started doing this thing, because there's people who are, fashion photographers and I don't know, ice cream tasters and things in the world.
But even I bet there's a podcast somewhere where ice cream tasters are like,
I hate ice cream.
You show me another vanilla, like I will fucking kill you. But I mean, like even just to on your CV that's on the couch there, you've worked on a Miyazaki film, and that's, I mean, it must be like a huge kind of point in your career, no? To have said you've done that?
Yeah. I mean, the work's really difficult because the level's very high.
Was it intimidating when you first went in, first day of work?
I find every job that I go into first day intimidating.
You never show it.
I know, that's funny because like everybody says that.
I was always really impressed. Like I've seen you. I worked with you in a couple of different jobs, and quite a lot of the time, quite like male macho environments. and I always see you step up to the plate every single time.
I get my guns out.
Yeah, that's it. And there's some guns as well.
Yeah.
I
get my weights out and start pumping them whilst I'm working.
So what was like day one at Studio Ghibli? What you went and sat down with Miyazaki and had a chat?
So it starts off with the scene casting meeting. So I'm given my storyboards of the part that I'm going to take on, and then it was like, okay, so your meeting is scheduled at 11 o'clock. So you sit down with him and then go through the scenes, and then he'll explain what he wants and how he wants his part to be and how significant that part is in the film. And then that goes on for a few hours, and then, well, that one went on for an hour, I think.
Wow, that's amazing, because like I don't think I've ever spent an hour on the whole, like if you was to tally up all the time you spent with a director on a commercial,
since you started your career.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't tally up to more than a couple of hours. I've worked on jobs where I haven't even met the director.
The one thing that's so important in working in Japan is these scene casting meetings.
Right, okay.
The one that I did with Hosada took 4 hours.
Really?
Seriously, it was like, I couldn't believe he was going on. I was just like, I was so tired after the second, because you're trying to absorb all this information and you're taking notes like mad.
Yeah.
And after 2 hours, I was quite tired, and he was still going on.
And this is just you and him, or is this with other people?
Yeah, me, what's that? And then the animation director is always there. The assistant director is always there.
Oh, but it's just you as the animator. It's only with one animator. Wow.
And the production assistants will be taking notes, and then there's another production assistant usually with all the model sheets and giving you all the references and stuff like that, making sure that you've got everything. It's very organised, these scene casting meetings. I think that's what makes a huge difference in the Japanese animation industry, that it gets all sorted there.
Yeah. So once you... There's no way you could ever animate a shot and they'll be like, oh, that wasn't what I was talking about.
Sometimes the director will just change his mind.
Okay, yeah. But then that's not your fault.
The lines of communication are always clear.
Yeah.
That's great, yeah. And I know we're sort of going back a bit, but you was working back to like your first job there, but you were working on Dream Machine, which was Satoshi Kon's. It's incomplete, the film now, right?
Yeah, well, whilst I was there, he passed away. So that was because I started, I think, soon after New Year's, and then I went over to Japan in April, and then he passed away in August. But the last month he wasn't able to come to work.
But like, just in his death, it was. I mean, we kind of heard about it here, and it was like, I remember in France there was like a whole exhibition about his death, and I think it kind of did have a kind of I don't know how much of an effect, but a lot of people were like upset by it here, and he might not even be that much of a kind of household name amongst animators. I mean, although people are aware of it if you're into anime, but how did that affect the industry in Japan?
I think the industry was shook.
Yeah.
The industry was really like, whoa, because he was quite young. He was still in his 40s.
Yeah.
And he I mean, animation directors go on for quite a while in Japan. They direct well into their 60s. Look at Miyazaki, he's 70, and then Takasse's reaching 80 now.
80, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And seriously, he doesn't look 80 though. He's still got black hair.
Really?
He doesn't even dye it, apparently.
Yeah. That old chestnut.
But it was quite a shock. But basically, it just couldn't be complete without the director.
Right.
No money, so it was just shut down. And then I was like, oh, where do I go now?
And that's when you started working on Wolf Children.
Yeah, I mean, I had planned to... the thing about Japan is that if your name isn't in the credit of a completed film or a TV series, then how are you going to be recognised? So nobody...
Oh, yeah. I suppose you couldn't show that kind of footage to anyone.
Well, there's no showreel kind of way of working. It's all about your CV.
Because I've seen these things, is it Mad or something?
Yeah, but those aren't made by the animators.
That's made by fans.
That's made by
and
fans.
But quite... yeah, okay. Right. How do they find who's done what when they make those fan showreels?
big fans, basically. People who recognise the style or who heard. But sometimes it's wrong.
Oh, really?
I've noticed. I was like, you got it wrong there.
That was my scene.
Because there's a fan-made Wolf Children clip with who did animated what scene.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes they got it wrong with my scenes. I was just like, I didn't animate that, but I'll take it because it's really good.
Oh, really? So someone has done it for your shots?
Yeah, for Wolf Children.
And they're beautiful, actually. I was watching the film as well, but I was looking at your sequences, and it's so good. It's so nice.
There's some of the better bits, I think, in the film.
Really?
In there, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, my favourite bit in the whole of that film, and I haven't watched the whole of the film. I got about 95% of the way through it before.
Just the credits.
Yeah.
Why did you suddenly stop there? You didn't. You needed to pee.
I think I fell asleep.
Oh God!
But that was just purely because it was like 1 o'clock in the morning and I'd been up since 7. I thought it was excellent. I thought it was really, really good.
One of the best bedtime stories you've ever watched.
One of the weirdest nightmares I've ever had. But there was some really, really good animation in that as well. I mean, there was obviously some people on that who were really...
All the animators there were good. I think
people.
the main animators, the full-time animators, there's only about 10 animators on that.
Wow.
And there's another maybe 5 to 10 animators who did a little bit of freelancing, who came in just for a few weeks or something like that.
Wow.
It's a very small team.
I really like the scene where she's having an argument with that boy at school. Is it Yuki? And they're going down the stairs.
Yeah. That's a bloody good animator, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's like 24.
Really?
Wow.
But that scene, like that, it's weird because you see, like I think that like knowing now that it's split up sequentially in anime, I'll see like a good bit of animation and then suddenly I'll be very aware of everything that comes after that because I know that there's probably some other good stuff coming up after that, and there was a couple of bits of animation where I was like, wow, that's really subtle, because especially considering it's such a low frame rate, like they just had such a sense of weight, or it had such a sense of I don't know, a little glance or something that was that I'd never seen before, and that bit was especially good. Who was it who did that?
Which one?
Who did that sequence that I was just talking about? Going down the stairs?
Is that when he's chasing her?
We can put it in the notes later on.
It was a really young animator.
Oh, we
I've forgotten his name. I'll send you an email.
Is that the bit where they have the sort of fight?
They have a bit of an argument,
right? Yeah.
And she's not talking to him. And
that's a really.
He was at the studio for about 5-6 months, and he finished about 50 scenes.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, all that.
So it's just pure talent.
That's such a rough way of explaining something. Pure talent. I don't. I mean, he's been working for quite. The thing is, he's really young, but he's very experienced. That's
when do people start?
Quite young. Like a lot of them start in their teens.
Teen? What?
Yeah, like
professionally?
18.
Right. Okay.
Like as an in-betweener, straight after high school. Or some people will go to animation schools, which are like 2 years, so maybe 20 or so.
Okay.
So, like, for me to say I started when I was 21 is a little bit later, maybe. But nowadays it's not that rare because a lot of art college students, a lot of animators are from art college nowadays.
So how many people in the Japanese animation industry have done live drawing, for example?
I think these animation schools and animation colleges, I don't think so. They definitely do it, but it's definitely not considered as important, I would say.
I think the thing I kind of got from, I went to Japan recently, and the one thing I just found like just incredible was that they're. Like here you can't really, if you wanted to teach yourself, I suppose with the internet now you can kind of look for it and that, but there's just such an abundance of books you can just buy, and like I was out there trying to find the specific kind of books, and me and Wes were going to like the comic shops because that's where you would find them here, and we couldn't find any of the books we wanted in the comic shops, and the places we found them were just like the regular
department
bookstores.
stores. Or
Yeah,
something.
and
But
it's
like,
these.
it's funny because you go to kind of a regular kind of stationery shop.
Yeah.
If you, well, not a regular one. If you go to a big stationery shop,
Yeah.
you can find Pegbars.
Yeah. Oh my god! I went to an art store
Animation
in.
Pegbars.
I went
it's
to
like-
an art store in Shinjuku, right? In Shinjuku, and it was
Is that
one.
Sekaido?
Yes,
Yeah,
the
that's a
big
big one. Yeah.
And I pointed that out to Lydia. I was going, oh my god, look at all this stuff, and then I was like, they've got peg bars. You can just
Yeah.
buy peg bars here, really standardly. Like they were next to like the sharpeners,
Yeah,
and, like, the
yeah, and the
rubbers.
pencils.
Yeah, and also they have a really comprehensive.
Light box.
Yeah, but like a little library of all different techniques of really good books on all sorts of principles and animation.
And then there's the screen tones aisle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's funny because I thought that by the time that I went back to Japan this time, they'd be gone because everything's on Photoshop, and then you can get software or something, you can get filters, but they're still there. I was just like, whoa, there's still a market for that?
So I think if you want to teach yourself that the resources are there, and easy to get, and they're not just like
But I don't
some
think...
rubbish book on animation. You can get like that wicked Ghibli book, which is just like all the layouts, you can really learn if you want to. There's no excuses.
But I still think there
You've
isn't...
got to pay for it though. I mean, that stuff.
Yeah, but it's cheap. I mean, like a book here with that kind of information, if it was imported from Japan, you pay 60 quid. Over there, it's like £13 or something.
Okay, alright, yeah.
But I still think there isn't a single good how to animate book in Japan that's been out.
Have people read like the animated survival kit? Is that
Yeah, I
something-
think that's. I think that's still even in Japan considered.
I think
the best
because
way.
I went to Japan and I went to the Ghibli Museum and they had, I think it was the translation of The Illusion of Light.
Yes.
Yeah.
was in
And
there.
it's a better format. It's square and it's smaller. And I was like, I wish they made it
When
like that.
I
here.
was interpreting at the Hiroshima Animation Festival, Richard Williams was the guest, and that was when he was promoting
Oh,
the
right,
animated
okay.
survival kit,
Translated
Japanese
version.
version. And I still don't think there's anything as good as that.
Why hasn't Miyazaki written one? Surely that's the next thing that he should do.
But he's so
Make a
like,
killing.
but even like, I think he does.
I think
really.
what he'll do is like release a book on how to draw planes and pigs. Or something
Yeah.
like that. He wouldn't
how
write
to
a
draw
book about how to
strong
animate.
female protagonists. But even like, I think he's really into helping educate. Like we went to the Ghibli Museum and like, you can touch stuff and you can flip through.
The Ghibli Museum is an amazing.
But like to be able to like grab a stack of rough animation and flip through it,
the
like
real thing,
I mean, I got that feeling that I've been. It's funny because we went to Disneyland Tokyo, and I know it's a theme park or whatever, and it's just such a plasticky. Like you can't learn anything there apart from just how to lose money, and then and you go to the Ghibli Museum. Okay, it's a museum or whatever, but I went in there and I learnt stuff definitely.
All right, so it's nearly 10 o'clock.
Okay. Oh shit.
happy,
Right,
yeah.
yeah. So we should wrap it. We should probably start wrapping up. So when we were in university, I remember I was looking around for new stuff, and that was right when the Animatrix came out, and I was absolutely charmed by the Animatrix. It was like individual creators who created these really a bunch of really unique pieces that were obviously like really finely crafted and based on years of tradition, but they were really sensitive pieces of filmmaking as well. And I kind of felt like from where I was standing at that point after the Animatrix, there was, in terms of what I was seeing, there was some really interesting stuff, especially from like a graphically different perspective. Coming out of Japan, you had Take on Kinkri, you had all the Studio 4C stuff that was being done, and I mean,
even that section that was in the Kill Bill first film.
Yeah.
Or was that 4C that did that? Or was that?
No, that was production IG.
Okay.
And some of the production IG stuff that was done, and I mean, even like you were talking about the animation director on Return of the.
Oh, it's
Cat Return.
The Cat Returns, was that what it's called?
Well,
I thought that was even like like a little bit stylistically different from stuff that I'd seen before. Like, it seemed like there was a bit more kind of variation and stuff. And I kind of feel like there was this period that was like super creative in Japan and was quite experimental visually. I haven't seen so much stuff like that recently.
There's
It's
that Motherfuckers film that's coming out, isn't it?
What's that?
Motherfuckers?
No.
Is that Japanese? Yeah. You were talking about it. It's being made at 4C. It's that French comic. Isn't it called Motherfuckers? The guy with the black head?
Okay.
But it's spelled differently.
Mutafkas, that's how
Yeah,
they
you just said it in a Japanese accent.
Yeah, I know, but that's how they said it at the show.
Right,
yeah.
I mean, that's coming out, and that looks really like.
Yeah, I really wanted to work on that,
but where's the where's the Japanese animation industry going now? Is it going like, you know, onwards and upwards into the future, or is it kind of, you know, trailing off? What do you think? I mean, the Mamoru Hosada films I know were quite successful.
Yeah, I mean,
to a mainstream audience.
Yes, and I think that's a really good thing that he does appeal to the general public instead of anime geeks kind of thing. The thing is, I like working for Hosada because my parents watch it and they love it.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
they're great stories. I think.
And
just piece of filmmaking.
They're just not, you know, self-absorbed and, you know.
I think in a way they're kind of.
They're entertainment films, I think.
Yeah.
I think
what's that like? They remind me a bit of. They remind me a bit of like True Blood and.
But I think
Twilight and stuff in a way, like it's that same kind of.
It's that genre, but I feel like
a human falling in love with a werewolf.
But see, when it started, I was like, oh my god, I hate this kind of thing. But then it's actually, the problem is really human. It's just someone who has to protect their children, and that's for me that I found really engaging, and just this mother struggling at all these different stages as they grow up, and which is, you know, you could tell a story like that about kids who weren't. It's just that they were, and the fact that they were half.
Did you cry?
No. But like Sam, I haven't watched all of it yet. I got to about 80%. I got to the bit where there's like the massive storm happening.
Okay.
That's exactly where I got to.
I know, it's really bad. Yeah.
But I mean, there's no stop in the demand for animation in Japan. Like people want to see. There's so much demand for it. And you look at the Evangelion films. I mean, you just think, how many times have they done this? And yet they're making so much. They are so successful.
Evangelion is still.
It's more successful than Wolf Children.
Wow.
I think that makes something like 60 million box office or something like that.
And how much they cost to make? Do you know?
Evangelion, I don't know.
But I mean, sort of rough
like, for
ballpark budget.
instance, I think a feature film budget can vary from 1 million to, if you've got 5
1 million for a feature film.
Yeah, sometimes.
Wow. That is
definitely.
I've worked on adverts that have cost that.
That's what happens when you charge people 30 quid a scene.
Yeah.
Pay people 30.
And but it varies up to kind of, you know, I'd say 6 million is quite a luxury for a general studio. But I mean, Ghibli obviously pays more. Dollars, sorry.
Okay. US dollars.
So $6 million is a pretty good rate for a.
That's a really good.
Bonkers.
Because I watched.
Because Tokyo Godfathers is 2 million or 3 million. I think.
No, it's more than that. Because I watched the making of that recently, and they were citing it as like one of the most expensive feature films made in Japan. But even then, it was still really cheap. It was like $13 million or something like that.
It was less than that. I don't
Really?
know why. Oh, that must be including advertising then.
Yeah, maybe with the cast as well, paying the cast or whatever. But I
Well,
remember them
that's usually included in the budget, and that's where it all goes.
I could be wrong, but I remember whatever the figure was. I remember in the interview with him, with Satoshi Kon, it was one of the points they talked about. They were like, "Oh, this is quite an expensive animated feature," and I remember thinking, "Whoa, that doesn't sound like a lot at all."
It's not a lot at all.
Yeah. Right. I think I've exhausted my my questions.
But yeah, I mean, the thing is, Japanese films there's a high demand within the anime industry and the anime fans and the general public watch animation like on a normal basis.
Yeah.
So there's no stop in terms of what's going to be produced, the amount that's going to be produced. And the thing is, people don't want to, because I mean,
it's a healthy industry.
Wolf Children was released on the same day as Brave, Pixar's Brave, and Wolf Children had half the number of cinemas, and it did better.
Wow.
In the same weekend, I think it did 300% or something like that.
Wow.
And people prefer to watch 2D films. By far, I think people love 3D films. Don't get me wrong, as well in Japan. Toy Story did great, but that doesn't stop people watching 2D films at all.
I was talking to someone who was working out there, and she was working for Disney, for the, I don't know, must be their channel, their distribution team there, and she was saying that like Western films that come over, they're successful, but they're successful for the merchandise. So like you go over there and you might see loads of people with like Mike Wazowski on their hats or bags or jackets or keychains, but they probably haven't seen the film. Or like SpongeBob is massive in Japan, but no one actually watches the show.
Yeah.
I think you get that. I mean, there was a period where they had all the Tech on Kinkri t-shirts in Uniqlo.
Yeah, people
for
were
sale over here. Loads of people wearing them.
But no, but people, but like when you go to, but people really like. And there's a difference between some guy just buying a t-shirt from Uniqlo or someone
because it
really
looks cool, but they don't know what it is. But in Japan, people know what it is.
But
they
they
just
just
haven't seen it.
But they just haven't seen
they're
it.
not
They like it as a
interested.
character.
They're just absolutely not interested in watching it. And I think that is like really interesting, because I think in the West people think, oh, Japan, they're so open. They just adults watch animation and read comics, but then actually they're. From what I was talking with Hanai, is that they're kind of not open, because they're only open if it's Japanese, and they're not that open to 3D productions or Western productions.
It is a fashion now in Japan. Like, I think Japanese films are, doing really well at the moment. Before, people just didn't watch Japanese films at all. They'd watch Hollywood films. But it's become really popular to watch Japanese films, because a lot of Japanese films are based on comic books nowadays.
You mean in Japan?
Yeah.
Oh, right, yeah. Japanese films have never been that popular in Japan?
No.
Really?
For a while it wasn't. It was really dead, the live action scene. And then it was all Hollywood dominated, but now it's kind of having this kind of renaissance kind of thing.
Yeah, it's funny, because how many Hollywood films are just Japanese remakes anyway? Like, even Old Boys has been.
Did they release The Ring, the American version of The Ring?
Yeah.
In
Japan?
Yeah.
Did
I'm
it
sure
did
it
well?
Did it do well?
I don't think so.
Why would it? Here's your film, but just not as good. Okay.
We should probably wrap this
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
The last train home.
It's been great. Yeah,
Oh man,
thanks so
I'd love
much.
to do round 2 of this or something. It's
Yeah,
been
Round
interesting.
Round 2.
Yeah.
Maybe we could. Yeah, I think we've got enough for 2 podcasts here anyway.
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
But yeah, thanks so much, I, for talking
It's
to us.
okay. I don't think we rounded it up very well, but oh well.
No, that's kind of the vibe of this podcast.
Yeah. All right. Thanks everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Cool. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye.
Bye bye.